ॐ जननीं शारदां देवीं रामकृष्णं जगद्गुरुं पादपद्मे तयो श्रित्वा प्रणमामि मुहुर्मुहुः. So we were discussing the great master, Sri Ramakrishna, the great master, where Swami Shardananji says that by voluntarily taking on human imperfections, the Lord or the avatars discover new paths to liberation. The role of an avatara is to show the way, and they have to assume human bodies to show human beings. They have to live like human beings. They have to endure sufferings, undergo trials and tribulations which a ordinary jiva undergoes, and show the path to liberation. So avatars, to a great extent, though there is a feeling or people think that they are beyond all these things and they don't have to struggle, but it is not true. They assume human bodies and assume all the imperfections of the jivas, which the jivas have. As jivas, we have our human imperfections, we have our human limitations, and like us, they must also struggle to discover a new path which is suitable for the age. That is the only thing. Then you may ask, why so many incarnations? So many incarnations have come in the past. They have also shown different paths. Why can't we follow those paths? So why has Krishna, Rama, he came as Rama, he came as Krishna, he came as so many avatars. The concept of avatara is there in our tradition, that every time the avatara comes, he traces a new path, you can say, suitable to this particular age, the age in which he incarnates, and how to get rid of all the limitations that we have. Until that path is discovered, or the awareness of that our true divine nature, which is obvious but not obvious to all of us. But for an incarnation, it is sometimes they come hiding their divinity. As Sri Ramakrishna said, Holy Mother Sharda Devi was Saraswati herself, but she hid herself in such a way, with a frail looking body, with a body which had to struggle, work so hard, endure so much of hardship, so much of pain in old age. She lived much longer than Sri Ramakrishna. Even Sri Ramakrishna had to take upon himself all the various diseases. So, though in their lives, Swami Shardanji says, if that divine nature, if that awareness of that divine nature is, though it is there from childhood, now and then he might get a glimpse of that, the incarnation may get a glimpse of it, it remains hidden, because otherwise we can't call it a divine play or Leela. Leela means you have to live that role. No doubt it's some kind of acting, but if the acting has to be good, it has to be really, the actor has to really feel that he's acting. So that's why good actors take so much of pain to have the same kind of feelings which the character demands. The role that demands, suppose you are playing the role of a comedian, though you may be a very sad person, but you have to act in such a way that you appear to be funny, you appear to make people laugh. So you have to, depending on the character which they are portraying, whatever character the actors portray, even there is a little bit of reality in that. So Swami Shardanji says, that being the case, incarnations, though for them it is just a leela, it is a divine play, but if they don't undergo if they are free from limitations, if they don't have to struggle, then humankind can not learn many lessons from their lives. So momentarily, now and then, we get a glimpse of the divine side of that avatara, but also along with that is the human side, which is very important. And why that human side of an incarnation is important, that is the question now. You will see Swami Shardanji is answering all these things. Because unless we know this, our approach to our Ishta or incarnation will be faulty. If we think he is supernatural, everything is supernatural about him, no doubt it is supernatural. Otherwise, he would not be called as an avatar. He is not bound by Maya like we have, but he shows as if he is bound by Maya. And when that happens, it is really real. I mean, it is real. It's not just and play acting or something like that. Though we call it the divine Leela, from our standpoint, it is a divine Leela, but for them, their standpoint, they become intensely human. So what is the Maya? The Maya that they assume, which covers up their divinity and makes us and everybody else who are inspired by the avatar to feel that they also share the same trials, tribulations, pains, and undergo suffering just as we undergo. Thus, we see, Swami Shardanji says, that for the good of many, for the good of the people, they accept the wheel of Maya, and like us, they grope along the path in this realm of light and darkness. So they also grope like us. For example, Swami Vivekananda, he had expressed a desire and he had the capacity also to be in meditation, to be lost in meditation, forgetting all the trials and tribulations of the world. But you see how many difficulties came to his life. His father died when when he did not even have a job. They suddenly found themselves poor. The family had to struggle. He had to look for a job. And Sri Ramakrishna told him, at least till I am alive, you don't leave your home, though he wanted to renounce everything. So they have voluntarily accepted these trials and tribulations. And it took a lot of time here to settle all the problems, win the legal case, and see that the parents, I mean the mother and the other siblings, had some provisions made for them, and only after that he could renounce the world. So they, for the good of many, Sri Ramakrishna told him, don't be selfish, don't try to go into samadhi yourself living. You have to be part of the misery of the world. That is why Swami Vivekananda had to undergo so much of suffering, apparently, because Sri Ramakrishna wanted him to feel the pain of how women are treated in this country. He had to lose his sister. His sister suffered a lot. She even committed suicide because the way women were being empowered, or lack of empowerment of women, lack of education, all these things he had to undergo himself so that he can empathize with women on the whole, not just his sister. So for that, all these trials and tribulations come. And they also have their share of light and darkness. When he was having so many difficulties, he even told his friends and the other brother disciples that I don't believe God has created such a cruel world. Why is he making me suffer so much? He went to the extent of saying that when somebody was singing about the glory of God, the Brahmo song where God is considered to be merciful, he said, don't rub salt into my wounds. I am facing so many problems and you are saying God is merciful. So out of anguish, he had to say that. But not that he did not believe, he knew. Whatever be the difficulty, holding on to God is the only path. But at times, even they suffer, and out of frustration, he told his friend, for you it is very good to sing that God is gracious, but I can't see that grace now. When I have to suffer, when I have to slog it out. So why do they do all these things? Why do they have this periods of light and darkness? Because they don't have a single trace of selfish desire for themselves. Their life itself of avatars is for others. They come down, they come voluntarily undergo suffering for our sake. That is what every Guru is supposed to do for the disciple. Sri Ramakrishna suffered so that his disciples could learn, not only disciples but entire humanity could learn something. He had to suffer, he had to undergo so many trials and tribulations. So also the succession of disciples, you find everybody struggled. Brahmananji struggled, they had their good times, they had their bad times, and every person who takes up this path. Why just people who take spiritual path, even those who follow the secular path? Life journey is never smooth. There are ups and downs. There is alternate light and darkness. It is only if they are willing sufferers. Swamiji once told Sister Nivedita, explaining the importance of Ma Kali, who on one side the divine Shakti helps us, on the other side she gives us pain. India has both aspects of mother. So when we suffer, we see the negative side or the gross side of Prakriti. And the wiser we are, the moment we make right choices, then mother herself shows us the way out of that trouble. But for both she is responsible. So this kind of unselfishness with which these prophets and avatars and their disciples, they all come for the welfare of humanity, not only for their own disciples. It was not only for Swami Vivekananda and a few disciples that Sri Ramakrishna did so much of superhuman sadhana. Thousands of disciples came to Holy Mother. She was unselfishly giving them diksha, because that unselfishness or the least trace of selfish desire is not there. Otherwise, they will be selfish. As Swami Vivekananda said, let me just meditate for days together and be liberated. That would have been the easier way out for him. But Sri Ramakrishna said, what kind of selfish person you are? Are you so narrow that you want your liberation? Why don't I thought you were like a banyan tree, giving shade to a lot of people tired people who are struggling in the world to solve their life's problems. You were supposed to be their guide, or you may say a guru to the world, the entire world. I thought you will be a Vishwa Guru, a guru who will solve the problems of innumerable people at different levels of spiritual life. So what they do is, the difference between the avatars, if they also struggle, if they also have limitations, then what is the difference? They focus all the energy, spiritual energy, in one direction and quickly solve not only their life's problems, but they are like beacon lights for us. We get a very good idea, and if we are wise enough to learn from their actions and their sadhanas, then we don't commit the same mistakes. If they speak of brahmacharya, if they speak of certain things, they themselves practice it and show, see, this is how you get bound and this is how you are freed. So sometimes they willingly take up bondage. Holy Mother showed how, like all other householders, she was also surrounded by selfish people, selfish brothers, so mad people whom she had to look after, and she negotiated all of them. And she's quickly solved all her problems in a very, very calm and collected way, with so much of equanimity. She solved all the life's problems, and in that, through that action of theirs, they do good to humanity by being object lessons in how to lead a spiritual life. So that is the next point Swami Shardanji is making. So then he makes another important point, that without regarding an avatar as human, though many people would not like, they want their avatar to be superhuman. Yeah, he has superhuman powers, he is a superhuman being, no doubt. But if we have to learn certain lessons, we have to think that he is human. He is human like us, he struggled like us, he is inspiring us to follow his footsteps. So one cannot make, Swami Shardanji says, any sense of his life and actions if we just have a superficial view that Avatar is always divine, always conscious of that divinity. Then we have very little to learn. We say, okay, for him, he is always conscious of his divine nature. No, it is not true. He now and then forgets. That is how Maya works. But that is a willingly he does, that he very often forgets and shows how he suffers because he has forgotten his true spiritual nature. And he also does sadhana to show how you have to regain your spiritual nature. So that is why Swami Shardanji says, we request the reader to study the master's divine aspect while always keeping in mind his human characteristics. It's not that we should not, in fact, Bhagavad Gita says, if one who knows my divine Leela, only he will be free. So we have to know Sri Ramakrishna's divine aspects, how he is different from all of us. But at the same time, we cannot ignore his human characteristics. If we do not think of him as a human being like one of us, then we shall not able to find any meaning in the hard work he did, the superhuman zeal he had when he did his sadhana. We are now yet to enter that phase of his life where he did a lot of sadhana, the initial realization, then realization according to different paths. So many things he spent, so many years he spent, and then gave the fruits of all he did to first to Holy Mother Sharda Devi, who did not have to practice all this sadhana, and whatever Swami Vivekananda needed on the last few days of his life. He called him and said, I have become a fakir. Whatever I have acquired, I am giving everything to you. I am not leaving anything. Not withholding anything from you. I am giving everything. I have become a fakir now. I don't possess anything. So that is the superhuman unselfishness with which they do sadhana, not for themselves. They don't need to do that, but for the sake of others, for sake of redeeming others. But at the same time, they have that superhuman quality within them. But at the same time, we have to analyze, we have to think of the human characteristics, how they overcame how they overcame all the different issues of our body mind complex, all the various issues a human being faces. More or less, we'll find that demonstrated in the life of an incarnation. So, that gives us, people who are practicing spiritual discipline, some kind of inspiration or motivation, so that if Sri Ramakrishna or these avatars or these direct disciples can do, then obviously even we can try. In fact, Sri Ramakrishna said, even if you can't do 16 annas, you do 1 anna, 1/16th of what I did. Even that is enough for you to attain to God realization. Again, some people may think that his lifelong effort was nothing but a matter of show. Was he just making a big show of his own life? No, that is not all. His effort, the avatara's effort, Sri Ramakrishna's effort, the steadfastness, the renunciation, every moment of his life, which he applied in his own life for God realization, not once or twice. That was the constant undercurrent. The undercurrent of self-effort, the desire to attain to the highest. Every day is to cry, one day has gone and I am still away from my goal. So that steadfastness to hold on to the spiritual ideal in spite of all the trials and tribulations that we have to undergo. It's not that life will be smooth. There will be ups and downs. In fact, the more you struggle, the more there will be downs. And we think that, oh, after taking to spirituality, things are not going well because we are struggling, because we are really able to take the challenge of what spiritual life offers to us. Incarnations show by their own life the trials and tribulations that they have to undergo. How much trials and tribulations Buddha or Christ or Swami Vivekananda or Sri Ramakrishna and Holy Mother had to undergo. This steadfastness, this renunciation in the midst of so much of confusion, which he applied in his life, Sri Ramakrishna applied in his life for God realization, may cause terrible apathy in our hearts. It may say that, oh my God, do I have to do so much? That's why he pleaded with his disciples, I have done 16 parts. You do at least one part of it. He was so kind, he was so gracious. He said, you don't have to do. Because of the superhuman efforts of Sri Ramakrishna, which shows the culmination of spiritual sadhana. But for us, the path is easy. He has made it more easy by saying that you just have to do 1/16. I have done everything. So Vireshwaranji used to once tell that in the previous incarnations, in the previous age, you had to take a key and open the door. This time Sri Ramakrishna has already, through his wonderful spiritual efforts, he has opened the door, opened the key to the door, turned it on. You don't have to turn it. Only thing is you have to push the door. At least that much you have to do. As Jesus said, knock and it shall be opened. So we have to seek so that we can get. Unless we seek, unless we have that intense desire, that steadfastness, that self-effort, that is what the avatars teach us. So to prevent that kind of apathy, that terrible apathy, because you see, when Sri Ramakrishna was ill towards the last part of his life, when he was really sick before his Mahasamadhi, he had become very thin. Many of the devotees were put away. Those who were not sincere, they totally misunderstood. Oh, how can a sick person become an incarnation? So they just say superficially. And author says here, Sardanji says, it may create a terrible apathy. Oh, do I have to suffer like what he did? Then the spiritual life is not for me. So many people have that kind of, instead of encouraging to emulate them, we find that in this life we will not be able to overcome. So that kind of inertia, if it comes, what should we do? That is what Swami Shardanji is now trying to answer in the next point which he mentions. He says, whatever may be the reason why devotees do not want to consider their avatars to be to possess human qualities, one has to resist that temptation of calling him only divine. Then we'll end up learning nothing. He is a role model. Our Ishta is our role model. Our Guru is our role model. Role model in what sense? Not that we have to just imitate. As Swami Vivekananda told his disciples, never imitate me. You follow the teachings, do everything else that I tell you, but as a guru, you should not imitate your guru. Imitation is one thing. So when we observe the life, we take whatever inspires us from that wonderful life. And just as Sri Ramakrishna said, just do 1/16. So if we have the luck, or if we have that grace of God to do 1/16 of what he demonstrated before us, that itself will be a great thing. So though we long for Master's grace, we always want, everybody in most traditions, especially the Semitic traditions, so much is made of grace. The grace of God, the grace of God. We keep on saying. But very rarely do we analyze, like what Shardanji does here. Are we fit enough to receive the grace? Have we done enough to deserve that grace? So, that is why, for that reason, though we long for the Master's grace as a divine avatara, he can easily change things in an instant, but still, we must also accept him as a person endowed with human feelings like ours, because he is sympathetic to our misery. If you see, he has suffered all these things. Why did Swami Vivekananda have to undergo, Sri Ramakrishna made him undergo so much of trials and tribulations. Father died, or the worst possible situation where your family, you can't look after your family, your eh, old, one of your father dies, and the mother is old, she cannot look after the siblings, all of a sudden they lose all the wealth, people cheat them. So these are typical situations that human beings are faced in the world. So if he is not endowed with feeling like us, ours, if he doesn't try to find out solutions, if he doesn't have anxiety, anguish because of this. Swamiji had so much of anguish. In fact, he would not eat. He would tell lies when he saw his brothers and sisters would be deprived if he ate the limited food that was cooked. He used to say that I had a party, I ate in my friend's house, or and used to just drink water and go to sleep, because he could not confessed to the parents that he did not have a job, or nor that he could not get even a morsel of food to eat. So many times he would go and say that I have already eaten, you people just share whatever is there. Because of that extreme poverty, he suffered. So they come with the idea, the master and all the other disciples, they have come with the idea to mitigate our suffering. How? By showing a live example. Therefore, from whatever angle we look at it, whether you accept this idea, this theory, this is the good explanation Swami Shardanji is giving, but whatever be the angle from which we look, we have no option but to think. All options are make us think that he is after all exhibiting human characteristics. He is coming to us as a human. So that human aspect has to be accepted as part of the divine aspect. He is human plus divine. So that is why there is a wonderful prayer when you do puja, ritualistic puja, Devam Bhutva Devam Yajet. Means by becoming one with him, you have to worship him. What does it mean? Will God ever be someone who is unreachable, who is unimitable, or you somebody who cannot become your role model? No, that is not the case. You have to become God. That means you have to become follow the sadhana in such a way, or follow what the message of the incarnation in such a way that you follow his own path, the path that he has fixed for you, and treading that path, one has to become that God whom you are worshipping. So Devam Bhutva, having become the Ishta on whom we are meditating, the Guru on whom you are meditating, by becoming him you worship him. So that means at the highest level you become one with that infinite creation, infinite consciousness, pure consciousness. So that is how we worship the divine, worship our Guru, worship our Ishta as manifestations, full manifestations of the divine. It would not do to consider our Ishta to have limitations. They have limitations to inspire us, but essentially they have realized that they are Satchitananda Brahman, Sat, Chit and Anand, the existence, knowledge, bliss within never dies. It's only the physical gross things that will change depending on karma and depending on rebirth and other things. Things will change, no doubt. Nothing will be permanent, nothing will be eternal in the gross sense. But in the subtle sense, he shows that on the human side, this is how you have to follow. So, as I told you many times, I have told you this story. Once Vireshwaranji was asked by somebody who was a great student of Gita, he was constantly asking, what is the solution? I am suffering from this. Every time he would be making a huge list of problems and saying, how does Gita solve my problem? Then Vireshwaranji told him, see, what can we do? Gita, the master of the Gita, the Sri Krishna himself, the Lord himself says, Tan titikshasva bharata, means having come across the dualities, heat and cold, you treat them, don't have strong likes and dislikes, just accept everything. That's the best scientific and spiritual way of approaching life. Having done that, focus and endure everything. Tan titikshasva. So you endure. Then this devotee said, no, this is a very simplistic solution that you are giving. If I have to endure, then what is the fun of following religion? There must be a better solution than this. So Virashanji got a little upset and said, do you think the Lord has cheated us? Do you think he has withheld all the good advice and given you the tough advice? Whatever is there, it is in the Gita. So if Gita says one has to endure, means one has to endure. There is no other way. That is how you make progress. That is how you evolve. So that is the idea, that first we consider the Lord as a human being and see how he fights and sets an example before all the disciples and before everybody, the whole world. And we try to imitate or try to follow him to the extent we can. Even 1/16th of what Sri Ramakrishna did, what Ma Sharda Devi did, what Swami Vivekananda did, that will help us. So for that reason, we have to think of him as a human being who has done superhuman sadhana, but from the same level as us. They also had to pass through the struggles, and finally, after struggling, they came out triumphant. So until we become free from all forms of bondage, physical, mental, God will not leave us. We must think of and accept God and each divine incarnation as a person. So all these gods and goddesses, they have come till we establish ourselves, till we become free from all bondage. Once we are free, then we can consider, because then you feel that the Lord is one of us. There is this famous incident which happened in Hriday's life. Everybody knows Hriday was serving Thakur. He knew the greatness of his uncle. He worked very hard day and night. It was he who somehow did so much of seva, so much of service to Sri Ramakrishna when he was doing his sadhana. He used to always follow him like a shadow. But at the same time, he was very gross. He wanted prosperity, wanted money, and always was looking for some kind of worldly rewards for what actions he did. But at the same time, he had that desire that he should be free, he should be spiritual. So one day he told Sri Ramakrishna that, see, everybody else who comes to you, they get some experiences. I also want to experience. I also want to have vision. So Sri Ramakrishna said, see, no, you don't have to do that. You just continue to serve your guru. Serve him. And all your problems I will solve. So he didn't have faith. Again and again he said, no, that disciple is having this vision. I also deserve it. Then Sri Ramakrishna said, okay. And he just touched his chest. That was his way of imparting divinity. And suddenly there was light everywhere. He felt that he was totally free. And then in that state, which was accidental, of course, he was not ready for that. He started shouting. He said, we are all free beings. Why should we, why all his desire to earn money, everything went away for some time. And he said, uncle, we are both divine beings. Can you not see? We are just like angels. We'll just... and Sri Ramakrishna then got terribly angry and said, why are you creating such a big fuss? Even I have these realizations. I don't jump about, because Sri Ramakrishna was ready. All the visions and things he could endure because of his purity, because of his earnestness, because of his yearning. But if you don't have, and if you just want the grace without working hard, then our condition will be like Hriday. So he said, you please take it. Sri Ramakrishna touched his chest again and said, why do you behave like a fool? Why are you jumping? What is so strange? We are divine. That is our true nature. We are just regaining our true nature. It is, these visions are not something, these experiences should not make you so abnormal. You should maintain your uh, equanimity. So that is not possible unless we are evolved. That is what the human side of an incarnation teaches us. So till we have understood, or we are in a stage to uh, appreciate or even to experience the divine nature of the Lord. So in the Gita, Sri Krishna says, try to know my divine nature. First it is through the intellect. We try to analyze. That is why we do take all these classes. We are trying to analyze and understand what our Ishta is. Whom are we worshipping? Kasmai Devaya Havisha Videma. I am like a fool offering all these oblations through rituals to a God whom I don't know who he is. To which God am I offering these offerings, this puja and all those things? If I have no idea, if I don't understand, try to understand to the best of our knowledge by reading such books, then we will have an ishta, we will have a mantra, we will have all sadhana, everything. But that background, unless it is there, who is the God that you are worshipping? What is his true nature? What is his divine nature? What is his human nature? Why is he behaving like that? All these things have been analyzed in this great master, so that we must think of and accept God and each of these incarnations as a person who has come as a human being to lead us from the gross to the subtle and to the ultimate reality. Becoming God, one should worship him. In that sense, the mantra that we do during puja, Devam Bhutva Devam Yajet, means trying our best to get some of these characteristics, 1/16th of what he does, by becoming that, by changing, transforming our personality, we have to worship the ultimate. Devam Bhutva Devam Yajit Kasmai Devaya. Which is the God am I worshipping? What is my idea of God? Is he just a person who is in the photograph, or maybe in an idol or an image? What does that God mean to us? It's just a form, it's just a symbol. But what is behind the symbol? Who is that? What are the divine attributes? So for that reason, Shardanji says, if you consider him as a human being just like yourself, and then superimpose the divine qualities as you go on progressing in spiritual life, you will not see your God just as a person having flesh and blood who is not existing anymore. So we yearn for his vision. We want to see our God in flesh and blood. That is what Mirabai and all, you see, all the saints, they wanted a live vision of the Lord. Of course, he gave that vision to all his true devotees, like Sri Ramakrishna. He was also saying that, is it just a figment of imagination that you exist? Oh mother, you are mridmai now, right? Now you are made of stone or wood or anything. But what is your true nature? I want to see you in your Chinmay nature. Chinmay means full of consciousness. So right now I don't see that consciousness. So also when we approach an incarnation, we begin with the human side, get whatever inspiration we need, but at the same time we know, or we have to try to know or come to a stage where the attributeless divine nature, the ultimate nature as Satchidananda, we try to realize that in our Ishta. So that is the idea. Now, once, only when a person reaches Nirvikalpa Samadhi, absolute or transcendental plane, which in yoga says you get rid of all limitations, then you will properly understand the Lord whom you are worshipping. Kasmai Devaya Havisha Videma. Till we are gross, till we have limited ideas of God, we will have a imperfect conception of God. But the moment you really attain to that Samadhi, which is part of yoga, Patanjali's yoga, at that stage you see the world in a totally different light. It's full of consciousness. Then you will understand the true nature of your Ishta whom you are worshipping. You begin with the human part of Sri Ramakrishna, how he did sadhana, get a lot of inspiration. We all need that inspiration so that we can negotiate our life in whatever way Sri Ramakrishna or all the great prophets did. They showed us the path. We may not be able to do fully, but at least whatever we can do, we have to do. And then once we understand the true nature, by knowing his Divya, in the Gita he says, you know worship me by knowing my divine nature in full. Don't have a hazy concept of my divine nature. So that comes through sadhana, that comes through experience. Who my mother is, Sri Ramakrishna was always trying to see if she breathes, if she talks to him. Nothing was happening till he got the first vision, which was pure light. That transcendental vision he got, and after that he wanted to have the same vision of Krishna, of Shiva, of all the gods and goddesses through different paths, also of Jesus Christ, of how Islam did their sadhana. So once the yearning is there, then you will find that we will slowly, or our meditation will lead to understanding the true nature of the Lord, whom we are considering as Ishta. Whoever be that Ishta Devata, he is there, partly human, even though he is not existing in the physical body anymore. He still is a person, a lovable personality whom you can approach, whom you can even see, with whom you can even talk. That is what was confusing Sri Ramakrishna. He said, everybody had your vision, oh Mother Kali. Because I am illiterate, are you denying me that vision? How did you give experience to Ram Prasad, Kamala Kanta, and so many innumerable saints? And they have told the entire humanity that prayer, through yearning, through intense desire, one can reach that. I am doing so much, but I am not reaching. So are you true? Or because I am ignorant, because I have not gone to school, are you cheating me? So that was the prayer which Sri Ramakrishna uttered. He said, I want to know the truth. And if you don't tell me, then how can I know? I am doing all the efforts. I am doing sadhana, I am doing prayers. Whatever the scriptures do, I will do it so that I slowly get a better and better conception of our Ishta, true nature of God, and only then we can worship him properly. Until you have achieved that, until we have achieved that state, our worship is incomplete. It is just the kindergarten of religion, as Swami used to say. All the puja and all the small things, we think we have done something which will give us tremendous religious merit. It may come because good karma always results in some benefit, but that is not the goal. Our worship is incomplete unless we follow this dictum of Devam Bhutva Devam Yajet. Having become that God, having imbibed all the qualities to the extent we can, we have to reach that reality. So it is, otherwise our attempt will be incomplete. We will not reach the goal, or we are not expected to reach the goal if we don't follow this path. And give as much importance to the human aspect of the master, so that it gives us hints as to how sadhana should be done, and finally pray for his grace, so that even if we are not fit enough, somehow through the grace we will get better and better. So if you consider God, this God according to the Hindu philosophy is a creator of the universe, one who has extraordinary powers. Most of the Semitic religions believe in that. So they are not like humans. They come with tremendous spiritual force and powers. The only question is, some prefer not to use it. But in the history, if we see, people have used it. Avatars have used it. Some saints have performed miracles. Maybe those things were necessary because people did not have enough faith. But to the highest aspirant, nothing short of mukti, or getting rid of all bondages, really matters. So God assumes, 2 points are now very clear. God assumes a human form out of compassion. Therefore, it is beneficial for all of us to study this avatar's life. That comes with that the prayojana, the purpose with which we take these classes. Even if 20, 30 people attend, they must be really lucky. All of us are really lucky that at least on every Sunday we try to remember Sri Ramakrishna, especially those who have considered him to be the Ishta Devata. What a tremendous benefit we get by studying the Avatara's life, by somebody who has been some kind of very close, who has seen from close quarters Sri Ramakrishna and his life and got so much of inspiration and taken sannyas. From the mouth of such a person, his writings, if we study Avatara's life based on his reading, that's why we discuss Master as I saw him. We want to see Vivekananda not through some stray facts. That's what most of the biographies did. But if you go to Master as I saw him by Sister Nivedita, somebody who lived with him, that's why she does not discuss anything about the childhood, whatever, unless Swami Vivekananda has told them. Normally, she has studied the Master from her own experiences, what she expected, how she came in touch. So it's just like reminiscences, and that's the right way to write a biography. You can't write a biography, study an Avatara's life with an unauthentic biography. There were, in fact, a lot of biographies written by some of the householder disciples, and they had claimed fantastic things, and people would have lost faith if they believed in all these cock and bull stories which they wanted to highlight. They just wanted to show that our Guru, our Sri Ramakrishna, is so great that he has no comparison. So there was a lot of exaggeration or maybe wrong information which Swami Shardananji wanted to correct. That's why he says it is most beneficial to study a very authentic life of an avatara, consider both aspects, the human aspect and the divine aspect, so that we benefit. So, but at the same time, Shardanji says a person who follows this dictum, Devam Bhutva Devam Yajet, worshipping God by becoming one with that God. Now, that is a very difficult task. So, very rare is a person who is established in the divine and can perform true worship of God. As the Gita says, if you know the true nature, if you are perfect in all respects, if you are free, and then you worship the Lord, then that will be the highest worship. But we have not reached that stage. That is why the human aspect is necessary. Because at that level, he is free from Maya. That's why Shankaracharya and Advaita and other philosophies, they don't say that don't bother about these problems. You have to transcend them anyway. So you keep on solving your life's problems bit by bit, bit by bit. Then it will take a long time for you to really take up the highest philosophy or highest pursuit in life. So his real form is Maya, but very few people will read through that Maya. Only Swami Turiyananji once, Sri Ramakrishna was testing him. He said, I am having so much of pain. Why doesn't mother allow me to drink a little? I can't drink, I can't eat. Such a terrible pain and suffering. But Turiyananji immediately said, no, 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 I see only bliss. Then Sri Ramakrishna was very pleased. He said, oh, this fellow has caught me. So they are beyond, their real form is beyond Maya. But they assume this Maya, assume a human state for our sake. So if you understand that, we will find that weak aspirants who cannot worship God in the right way, the avatara becomes an intermediary. We do not know what is to which God I am worshipping. The Vedic rishis were honest. Kasmai Devaya. I don't know, because my ancestors were worshipping, I am worshipping. Because my ancestors took Diksha, my parents took Diksha, I want to take Diksha. That is not the right attitude. You want to do sadhana, the call should come from within. It is your curiosity, or you have to understand the implications, what it is. So even for study of biography, you will benefit if you consider both the aspects, and that is why this is a very special biography. It's one of the best biographies of any person in living memory. But it's so accurate, so nice, and so vital to our understanding of Sri Ramakrishna that this book is so important in our life. In fact, when Atmasthananji Maharaj was, before he became the president, he was looking after the probationers. So he took away all our books and said, first you read gospel every day and the great master. Until you have finished that, no books will be given to you. He was such a strong disciplinarian, because he knew people who have come here to dedicate their life to Sri Ramakrishna. Without Sri Ramakrishna, the mission is nothing. The Ramakrishna mission, the mission without Ramakrishna is like a church without Christ. It is Christ who should be the main person. Then the church flourishes because it follows truth. It follows the teachings of Christ in a proper way. So also we have to understand to the extent we can, and even though we are far from the state where we can really understand Sri Ramakrishna, we begin from where we are. Do consider that he Gadadhar came as a person with human body and human feelings. Let us see what has happened when he was young, when he was married, so many things happened in life. How did he react? How did he live with others? How did he live to himself? What was the attitude? All those things help us to understand the true nature. Then only our worship becomes true. So God descends. Avatara means to come down. It descends to the human plane, assumes a human body, assumes human feelings, and we have a greater opportunity to discuss the history of Sri Ramakrishna sadhana than that of our earlier avatars. So Swami Shardananji says, how lucky we are. We are able to, in so much minute detail, Swami Vivekananda said, if you see Jesus' life, we know his teachings, what he did, the miracles he did. Buddhas also we know, but we do not know their biography, what they did as sadhakas. Though they are incarnations, they took human form, what type of sadhana they did. All those things, only in the case of Sri Ramakrishna, these are recorded, fortunately. That's what he says. We didn't have opportunity to discuss, even though we wanted to, the history of Sri Ramakrishna sadhana. So that is why we have the sadhaka bhava, which we'll discuss next. And earlier avatars, most of the time, childhood Leela is there, then suddenly you will see Sri Krishna also. What he did in Sandipani, how was he trained, who was his guru, how did he undergo education of secular subjects, of spiritual subjects, what was his relationship, how spiritual was. All those things are missing. We see Krishna, the Gopala Krishna, and then suddenly Krishna becomes the warrior, the kingmaker Krishna who helped or maybe was involved in the war. So we don't know about the intermediate period, how Krishna became what he is, how Ramakrishna became Ramakrishna. That is recorded. Unlike other biographers or other lives of great avatars, this is the first avatara where everything has been minutely documented and recorded. That is why we have a greater opportunity to follow the principle Devam Bhutva Devam Yajet. So we are proceeding by reading, by not only doing sadhana, but trying to understand the life and teachings of somebody in a very authentic way, and with that worshipping him. Then our worship yields more fruit. You can worship, you can repeat the mantra, you can think of God in a very vague way, but the result will be more if you think, if you analyze, if you read. So that is why Swami Shardanji says it becomes so important to read the biography of one whose sadhana period, unlike other avatars, has been documented. It may help us in our sadhana. All the different paths he traversed, the intensity with which he traversed, and what were the experiences he had when he followed that path. So from time to time, the master himself, Swami Shardanji says, how did they come to know? They were all young. Most of them were not born when Sri Ramakrishna was doing sadhana. Some of the incidents were told by Hriday, but they were all cross-verified with the other Holy Mother and others. So, time to time, Swami Shardanji says, when some people asked him, what is the source of your information? He said, many times the master himself told us detailed stories of his own life during sadhana. He used to very openly tell them. Most of the recording was done there when he himself told Swami Shardanji. So those things are undisputable. They were told by somebody who had experience. There were others also who were part of the divine Leela at that time. So a study, or after asking them how they reacted with Sri Ramakrishna, many more incidents are also included, and that deeply imprinting those pictures on our minds helps us in our sadhana. So we'll find he assumed so many different roles. The Kali Bhakta, the person who worshipped Radhakanta, the person who used to go to the Shiva temple daily, say the Shiva Mahimna or other mantras associated with Shiva, and did all the different sadhanas. These pictures of him doing the Ramayat sadhana, him doing the Vedantic sadhana, if those vivid pictures which has come down to us through description, of course, if these things were witnessed by us in flesh and blood, then it would have been a different story, like the direct disciples did. But at least we have a very authentic account of the vivid pictures of the Avatara who lived not very far in history from us. That is another advantage, that our proximity is so much towards Sri Ramakrishna. Only the other day, a few hundred years, compared to the thousands of years when the prophets appeared. So their message, but here we have very authentic information, because it was not only recent, it was also recorded and rechecked, re-verified by Swami Shardanji. That makes this book very, very important. So we will now conclude. I'll see the chat if there is some question. Yes. Sharon is asking, Titiksha is one thing as expounded, but how to say sa sa sha when and if the thing being born interferes with our sadhana? It is a case of he who wants for waves to subside before we dive. Yes, that is true. You don't have to wait. These problems will come and go. We have to just ignore. Titiksha doesn't mean that you have to just endure. It also means that you have to ignore. If you can ignore, you ignore. If you can't bear it. Titiksha means sahanam sarva dukkhanam apratikara. But don't react. If we react, our reactive mind becomes active and it causes a lot of bondage. But if we should use our discriminative mind to find out that these are temporary, the joy that I get is temporary, I am laughing now, but maybe very soon I'll cry or there will be trouble in my life. So just don't get very much committed to strong likes and dislikes. So that is what we should do. Sa sha sha, when Thakur says that, and don't, before enduring, you have to first have patience to see what is going on and why it is going on, why is it affecting me, all the different issues, and how to deal with it. So health issue may be chronic, yes, that is also there. It is normally explained through the law of karma, so we don't get anything undeserved. Even Sri Ramakrishna's throat cancer and for his subsequent death was because of some reason, though we cannot pinpoint. One of the reasons, as Girish Go said, was to take up the sins of all the sins that he had committed, which were tremendous, not only in the previous life but in this life. So to take up all that, it requires a superhuman incarnation to do that. But that doesn't mean we should not study. The human side also we have to study. And this is a very authentic biography. So I'll take your leave now. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. There's one more question I'll quickly answer. Why do various avatars seem to be wielded by Maya or allow themselves to be wielded to different extents? It seems some of their leelas highlighted human struggles and qualities more than others. Some were more willing to reveal their omnipotence or true identity as God. Yes, that is partly because the records are not there. It's not that Jesus Christ did not do sadhana. It's not that Rama did not do sadhana. The only thing is, with the passage of time, whatever records were there, they got destroyed because people were more interested in the divine aspect. That is why we are so lucky that we are so near history, that we have a record of the sadhana of Sri Ramakrishna, his struggles, his human nature. Whereas most of the other biographies, they are so old, based on old memory, traversing so many generations, and lot of editing has happened, and lot of facts are not available. Many missing links you can find in these biographies of other incarnations. Even here there is a missing link, especially the end part of his life. The last part of his life is not very clear or recorded. For some reason, even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's last part of his, how he died and how he committed, passed away into Masamadhi, they don't want to deliberately discuss that, because that they think that it belittles the value of the avatara. In fact, it enhances the value of the avatara. So it is not that it is different in different, the recording has not been done. Each one has undergone struggles. Krishna has undergone struggles. Rama and all the Buddha, everybody has passed through a period of uncertainty, struggles, trials, tribulations. Yes. Now, how can one see oneself as the child of God and at the same time live like a servant of the world? Yes, that is true. There are two aspects of our personality. One is, if we think we are bound, if we are uh, not very gross in our approach, but if our attitude is such that we are not able to consider everything that we do as coming from the Lord Himself. So if we are children of God, the hard nature of the struggles that we undergo become child's play. This literally happens. You see, there are some people who are so pampered in their childhood that a little endurance, a little physical problems, they keep shouting and they want to immediately resolve it. Whereas some people, some children, when they grow up, they have that uh, capacity to bear. Swami Bhuteshan used to say, somehow when he was growing up, his parents and his ancestors and his grandparents used to say that we have observed, when he grew up, they told him, when you were a child, when other children fell down, they would cry and make such a big fuss, but you simply got up. I mean, that shows that there are many things which people can do in different ways. So it is not that one doesn't or one cannot in fact see ourselves, we cannot see ourselves as a child of God. Very often Prakriti is so harsh to us, then we feel that we are just slogging, we are just slogging away our entire life, we are just slogging. But sooner or later we have to change that attitude. It's very difficult. That is why they say, Swamiji says, one who always grumbles, his life becomes miserable. Instead of that, if he accepts it as a challenge and say that, no, I am a child of God and I am not a servant of the world, I will not be forced by the world to do certain things which will increase my bondage. The world may give so many suggestions to me, do this, do this. And if I don't make the right choice at the right time, then I may succumb, and then you have to bear the consequences. So it is very important to know child of God means having some qualities which God Himself has demonstrated. The nearer we are, the more we think that we are children of God, the better that it's a question of attitude. It's not that one will become children of God. It will take a lot of time to even develop that attitude, but one should persist. It is only through persistence. Okay. Yes, Swamiji said, I am a sannyasin. As such, I consider myself as a servant, not as a master in the world. That is from a different viewpoint, he said that. He said, as a sannyasin, you are supposed to give up your pride. Even the idea that one is a child, where one feels jealous, one thinks that one should get everything, one feels that one should be pampered. That is also an attitude when you think. But for a sannyasin, to think of himself, otherwise, if he thinks he is the child of the Lord, he can't work for the benefit of others. When we serve others, when we serve God as man, we have to assume this. There are so many attitudes that we can assume. If Hanuman had thought that he is, you take Rakhal for example, Swami Brahmananda had that nature of a child, so he would not do any work. Latu Maharaj was quite opposite. He felt that he should serve his guru. And every time both came, Sri Ramakrishna used to tell Latu Maharaj to do the apparently unpleasant things. Just as we have the story of Mary and Martha, two sisters to whom Jesus went. One was cooking and one was had the benefit of living with the master. And in fact, he praised the person who was trying to. He said, "See, you the child of. I mean, to have feel oneself as the child of God. It's a privilege given to few." So when Swamiji says, he says it in a different sense because sannyasin has to sacrifice his life for the benefit of the world. In that sense, he has said that. Yeah, a sannyasin is definitely can consider these attitudes depends on the context. Unless we are sons or children of God, that's why the idea of God the mother is there. So even for a sannyasin or for a householder, the attachment one has for one's own mother, when it is exemplified or increased thousandfold, then you consider God as your mother. The characteristics of mother you like to see. That is why when we are in trouble, when we want to assume the nature of a child as opposed to the nature of a servant, we catch hold of mother. So there should be a dual approach. On one side, there is self effort. We want to do something. We have the strength. God has given us strength. So we become servants of God. We do work hard. But very often, we turn to God as the mother. And when you come to mother, mother says no. When the child goes to the father, he disciplines him. He said, no, you have to work hard and do this. I won't give you anything for free. But the same child, when it goes to the mother, it assumes the role of a child. That doesn't mean that one should be either assume the. Whenever you feel that God is your mother, you assume the role of a child. Whenever you are in tough situations, then you say, okay, I am the servant of God, but I'll not be the servant of the world. I'll be the servant of the Lord Himself because it is His seva. Whether I'm doing annadana, serving others by giving food, vidyadana by giving people skills, teaching them, or by pranadana or adhyatmic dana, all the attitudes with which a servant gives. Some people may give food, some people may give something higher, skills, some people may give pranadana, they may save lives, and some people may give spiritual knowledge. They may work hard, try to be the servant of all. as Swami Vivekananda told Nivedita, you be the mistress, you be the mother, you be the servant. All these multiple roles we have to play in life. Okay. Thank you. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Very nice questions. I really appreciated. I hope in our other classes also we have such wonderful interaction. These are all questions which have come from the bottom of the heart. They are not just superficial questions. They are not questions which have been asked to get some kind of information. These are some situations which we encounter in our daily life and we seek solutions for them. That is the spirit with which these classes should be attended and questions should be asked. Thank you.